After his time in Washington, Bills Mafia was hoping for a bounce back year from Josh Norman. Now it looks like we might have to wait just a little bit longer. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this injury update edition of Believers Talk, where we're going to take a look at the current injury situation for our Buffalo Bills. Again, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills news. With the Buffalo Bills season just less than 3 weeks away at this point, you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell. We will keep you up to date on all things Buffalo Bills throughout the season, including some injury news. Obviously, the injury news that's most Bills fans concerned is the news of Josh Norman. On Friday, Coach McDermott gave a little bit more information about the Josh Norman injury, but he still left a lot of things up in the air. We're going to talk about those things right here on this edition of Believers Talk. So let's go back to Thursday, revisit the injury, and then we'll talk more about what this could potentially mean for the Buffalo Bills moving forward. So on Thursday, during a full padded practice, Josh Norman was covering a wide receiver. Josh Allen threw a pass. Norman cut off the route and intercepted the ball. That's good news. On the return, however, Stefon Diggs was able to catch Josh Norman from behind, forced a fumble from Josh Norman, and when Josh Norman went down, he was slow to get back up. Always a scary scene in practice when one of your players cannot get back up. Now, luckily, after a little bit, Josh Norman was able to walk off under his own power. So that's really good news. That shows good signs if you are a Buffalo Bills fan. Now, Friday came along and the press was able to talk to Coach McDermott about this injury. And some things that we found out that was a hamstring injury. So that's good to know exactly where the injury lies. So we know that it was a hamstring injury. And that can lead to some good news and some bad news. So the best case scenario is it's just a hamstring pull, right? And that, it will only take a few weeks to heal, and then he'll be back on the field. However, if you think about last season, we had a player suffer a hamstring injury early in the year. That's Devin Singletary, our rookie running back last year, and the Buffalo Bills kept him out for 5 weeks. The injury happened at the end of the Week 2 game. I think it was the third quarter of the Week 2 game against the New York Giants. Kept him out until Week 7 of the NFL season. Now, Week 6 was the Buffalo Bills' bye last year, so if the Bills played Week 6, would Devin Singletary have started then? Did they intentionally wait a little bit longer because they knew their bye week was coming up to give him that extra 2 weeks rest? Those are all possibilities. Now, we don't have a luxury of an early bye week this year for the Buffalo Bills, which, to be honest, I'm okay with that, but when it comes to these training camp or early season injuries, it really doesn't help things out too much because you don't get that extra rest. So Josh Norman sitting out, who knows how long he's going to be out for. However, yesterday in the press conference, Coach McDermott was talking about the severity of the injury and how they were not sure about the severity of the injury. So when I hear that, I think that it's more of a pull or strain than it would be a tear. So that's good news. You're talking about 24 hours or more than 24 hours after the injury. You would assume that the NFL would already know if it was a torn hamstring or if it was just a pull, and we don't know the severity because there's plenty of different types of severities of a pull. Just like when you tweak an ankle, you could be out for weeks, you could be out for days. It all depends on how bad you tweaked it. Now, we know that Josh Norman is no longer a spring chicken when it comes to football terms, when it comes to your age in playing football. And we all know that the older you are, the longer it takes to recoup from certain injuries. I used to get a sprained ankle. I'm sure plenty of you are the same way. I used to get a sprained ankle playing basketball, would be able to be back out there the next day. Now I get a sprained ankle. I like to sit out a week just to make sure that my ankle's fine and that we are good to go. And that's me. I don't play, football on a regular basis or anything like that, so I'm not sure what this means for Josh Norman's injury. Obviously, again, we're going to check out the severity of the hamstring, but if it was a tear, and if it is a tear, let's say the MRI did not happen, you can expect Josh Norman to be out somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks. You don't want to have physical activity after it's surgically repaired for at least 8 weeks. And with everything going on with COVID, that obviously adds a different element to getting a surgery done. Right now, it's still the NFL. I'm sure they still have sources that can get things done quicker than in most cases, but you still have to take everything into consideration if we were talking about a hamstring tear. Again, with the news, with what Coach McDermott said about not knowing the severity of the injury, that leads me to believe that it's more of a pull than it is an actual tear. So with the pull, like I said, we're not sure the severity of that injury. That's why Josh Norman was ruled out indefinitely, just because we don't know the severity as of yet. Now, as practice goes on, more days of training camp, we're going to learn more and more about the injury, what Josh Norman feels comfortable doing. Can he get on the bike and just start working the bike a little bit? Can he get back on the field before the season starts? But I just have a bad feeling that even if he can get on the training camp field before the season starts in less than 3 weeks, the Buffalo Bills will still stick with Levi Wallace as their CB2 until Josh Norman feels completely ready to come back, because we know that these hamstring injuries can linger, and the last thing you want going into a season is one of your cornerbacks having a lingering injury, or any of your players having a lingering injury that could pop up at any time. We'd rather see Josh Norman completely healthy and ready to go whenever he comes back. Now, we talked about Devin Singletary last season, and like I said, last season when he pulled a hamstring week 2 against the New York Giants, he was out for 5 weeks. So let's just imagine that Josh Norman is out for 5 weeks. Let's say it takes the same course that last year's injury with Devin Singletary took, okay? That means that Josh Norman would miss the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. So that means he would miss the game against the New Jersey Jets. That means he would miss the game against the Miami Dolphins. You're talking about 2 divisional matchups. Since the Bills start off with divisional matchups back-to-back, you really don't want to see a lot of injuries going into these games. You never want to see injuries. But when you're talking about division opponents, when you're talking about division games, I did a video earlier this month about how important it is for the Buffalo Bills to get out on a hot start, right? Start 2-0. You want to win those divisional games. After that, we can worry about the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams and all that down the line. But you definitely want to make sure you win those first 2 divisional matchups, especially the home opener at home. You want to make sure you win your home games, home turf. Like I said, last 2 seasons, we finished 4-4 at home. That's not good enough. We need to do better. But if you look at the cornerback room, what does this mean for the cornerbacks if Josh Norman cannot play? So obviously, we know that means Levi Wallace is going to be our number 2, right? But not only do we lose Josh Norman now as a cornerback, remember, E.J. Gaines already opted out during the COVID period of opt-outs. So that means we're down 2 cornerbacks, and a position that, to start off with, we had a pretty good amount of depth. Listen, we're losing that depth now. Now it becomes a real worried position if someone else were to go out. So let's look at that cornerback room without Josh Norman. Obviously, you have the best corner in the game in Tre'Davious White. You have Levi Wallace, who can come in and be your cornerback too. But now who's going to be your slot corner? Who's going to be your backup to Levi Wallace? Remember, Levi Wallace did not play 100% of the defensive snaps last season. I was guessing that they would still like to rotate Levi Wallace with Josh Norman, or Josh Norman with Levi Wallace, whichever way you want to rotate it. So who is going to fill that void if either something happens to Levi Wallace, or if they want to rotate someone in to keep Levi Wallace healthy? So here are your list of other cornerbacks in the cornerback room. We got Cam Lewis, Teron Johnson. Teron Johnson has shown some promise early on in his young career. So maybe, he suffered some injury setbacks as well. Maybe he can come on strong, work as that slot corner where E.J. Gaines might have fit in. That might be Teron Johnson's territory now. You got Dane Jackson, the 7th round draft pick out of Pitt. A lot of people like him. and hopefully that could lead to good things down the road. But normally you don't want a 7th-round draft pick to be playing week 1 of the NFL season. And you also have Ike Brown. I'm a fan of Teron Johnson. I think he can definitely hold his own in that slot position. But again, we know how Coach McDermott, we know our defense coordinator Leslie Frazier like to rotate things. So when you look at the rest of this lineup, you look at White, Wallace, and Teron Johnson, you say, okay, that's pretty good coverage. That's not bad. But who's backing them up? Let's say, and again, we don't want to speak this into existence, but let's say Tre'Davious White would go down, even for a half, even for a quarter, right? He has to sit out. Then what are you doing at that CB position? You obviously are losing a lot of depth here, something that Buffalo Bills had going into training camp that all of a sudden we don't have the luxury of having at the cornerback position. So again, right now it looks like White is going to be your cornerback number 1, obviously best corner in the game. Wallace is going to be your cornerback number 2 with the injury of Josh Norman. Again, even if Josh Norman comes back later in training camp, I think Levi Wallace still has to get the go-ahead for the starting position, because he'll be with us the last few weeks of training camp and be able to build that camaraderie with the defense and be able to learn what the defense wants to do a little bit more than what Josh Norman's going to be able to do if he's on the sidelines, right? You can't replace playing on the field with riding the bike or with reading the playbook, right? You have to be on the field, and Levi Wallace will have that edge on Josh Norman. And then maybe Teron Johnson as your slot guy, right? But what does that mean for backups? Now, best case scenario, Josh Norman does come back later in training camp, and hopefully he'll be ready to go week 1 if needed. But worst case scenario, we could be talking about missing week 1, week 2, maybe even missing week 3 of the NFL season, and then the Buffalo Bills really have to worry about what's going to happen with depth at that cornerback position. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think the Buffalo Bills need to go out and find another free agent cornerback to build up some depth? Or do you think this Josh Norman injury might not be as serious as people are saying, and he will be back before week 1 of the NFL season? Again, let me know in the comment section. Like this video. And again, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Less than 3 weeks away from watching some Buffalo Bills football. We have live play-by-play right here on Billievers Talk. So hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to hit that notification bell, like this video, leave a comment. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Hopefully we got some more good news to come, and I'll talk to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.